Hi, I am going to begin this video with a bit of a story. It is a reading for the current times, for the collective, but what I need to tell you is that I've recorded a review of the cards I'm going to be using, which are these rather, the Guardian of the Night Tarot cards. And then I recorded the reading. I drew the cards I'm going to show you now on camera. And after I'd done it, I'd interpreted the cards, I'd given a message, some guidance. I thought, there's something I'm missing, there's something not quite right here, so I deleted that. That was a couple of days ago. Now, normally what I would do, my plan was to post the review and then separately post the reading. As it's happened, I still need to do some editing for the review, so I'm going to post them back to front. Right, and I wanted to add here to anybody who is starting off with the tarot cards, who is offering readings and perhaps isn't 100% confident yet. Fears can come up, right, that you don't get it quite right or that you miss something. I would say never be afraid of admitting that. It hasn't happened very often, but I have on occasion, after I've done a reading for somebody, an additional insight has come in, or I've realised that the way that I read the card wasn't 100% congruent with the reading as a whole, and I've just followed up. I've sent an email or whatever and said, since we had the reading, blah, 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 blah. And I would say never be afraid to do that. It can happen. And then we do whatever we do in order to either pass on that information, or in this case now, delete the video that you did and do another one. Okay, so we are now the 14th of September. It is days after the death of Queen Elizabeth, and as I speak now, her coffin has begun its journey across the country. The reading wasn't and isn't specifically about that, but it is an event that has impacted many people, whether you were fond of the Queen, whether you were not fond of the Queen. There's something about the removal or the leaving of a person who is also a very strong symbol exiting the scene that has repercussions, reverberations throughout the world. The word that kept coming to me after her death was untethered. It's as though one of the mooring points for our consciousness, again, whether we liked her, whether we like the office of the royal family or not, it's been a very stable presence in the form that it was while she was alive for a very long time. And there are a lot of energies swirling around right now, and I imagine will continue to do so. Okay, so the reason I referred to her before I even show you the cards that I pulled was that this spread, I feel very definitely has that as a central theme. Now, the first two cards I pulled 3 cards and then a fourth one as a sort of clarifier. The first two were this one, the Knight of Wands and the King of Wands. Now, what I did when I did my first reading is I focused predominantly on the energies of these cards, rather than the possibility that they were representing people. And this is something that happens with court cards. One has to make a choice of what it is that they mean in this particular context. And it was only afterwards I thought to myself, how could I have seen such, or not seen, the card that was missing here? In between the Knight of Wands and the King of Wands comes the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands is not in this reading. Now, the Queen of Wands in this deck is a lioness. In the traditional Rider-Waite deck, she represents to me, and we all develop our own relationships with the cards, quite a tomboyish energy, somebody with great affinity to the countryside and animals, doesn't suffer fools gladly. And I thought that that's the Queen. That is Queen Elizabeth, and Queen Elizabeth isn't here anymore. We've got the King, and I take that to represent Prince Charles, and we have the Knight of Wands, who I take to represent Prince William, and the Queen is absent. Okay, so the card that followed on from that is the World, and the World is a very beautiful card, and the way that this particular one is illustrated I find very beautiful. It's quite telling, I think, that it's this deck rather than the traditional Rider-Waite deck, because the use of the bee has a symbolism of community, working together, and the world itself represents, and I think particularly in this reading, in this context, the completion of a cycle. We have come to the end of an era, and this is something that, as we've said, affects everybody. And I mentioned that some people may have been very fond of the Queen and the monarchy, some people not. There are some people who are completely neutral, but even if you are neutral and not particularly interested, it's very difficult not to be affected by the energy that is around us at the moment. So there's something about coming to terms with the absence of a very strong symbolic figure, a figure that was there for a long time. It is no longer there. We have these two quite different characters. I don't know if I ought to say it, but the fact that this is a lion, a male lion, the word indolence, there's an element of indolence to a male lion for me. So I don't know, I thought I'd just, it's what came to me, so I'm saying it. And this is a much sort of younger, brasher energy. Brash, and yet with the ability to control himself too. So interesting. End of an era, and an awareness of being part of a collective, an awareness of being part of a community. Then the third card, the fourth card rather, that I drew, which was a clarifier about, okay, so that's the situation. What would be useful to know about that, and what guidance might there be? And that card is death. So yes, there has been a death. There's been the death of the monarch. But death, to my mind, rarely actually directly refers to a death, and refers more to the ending of something. And this is, it's almost like a double message here. We have come to the end of an era, and the advice, if there's an advice that comes with this card, it is about letting it go. And again, there's I love how these things happen sometimes. There is a significance to it being this card from this deck rather than other illustrations of the death card in other tarot decks, because this one is about having the realization that staying in a situation, so the rat, which has been caught by the owl, had created a place that felt safe, that was very familiar, that was very secure, but actually ended up making it easy for the owl to find it and take it. And you can see all those thorns there as well. So you've got those red things I'm reading as berries. So you've got some comfort in the familiar, and yet it can create a cage, shall we say, or a constricted space, and a space which isn't as safe and secure as it feels. So in terms of guidance, I feel very strongly that the guidance here is to take this opportunity, whether you're experiencing grief, and many people are experiencing a lot of grief with the passing of the Queen, or something else, is to enable yourself to take this time where she's traveling, or her body is traveling across the country, and then there'll be the funeral in a few days, to let go, to release whatever it is that needs to be released. There's no benefit in remaining tethered to a space where there was something but there no longer is. It becomes a constriction. It does not become something that that helps us, and rather hinders us. So in the most gentle way possible, that is the message that came through from these cards. And even though I drew them a couple of days ago and my intention was to draw a couple more, this actually feels as relevant today as it was a couple of days ago, and I do not think that there at this moment is anything to add. So go well, everybody. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.